It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Amy Dirks, who is a sports dietitian and nutritionist. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into sports, being a dietitianist and nutritionist?
Sure. I was an athlete growing up. I absolutely love sports. I still love sports to this day. I played every single sport that I could. Growing up in a small town, that doesn't leave much for you to do. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to get a college scholarship to play Division I volleyball at Arkansas State. So again, that just solidified my love for sports. It's in my heart. It's in my blood. And actually, while at Arkansas State, we really didn't have help with diet. We had our athletic trainer was really knowledgeable, and our coach would emphasize it, but he didn't really have any specifics. We had a strength and conditioning specialist that was hired my senior year, so it was kind of like, well, it's too late now at that point. So, but I actually majored in exercise science, and Arkansas State didn't have a dietetics program, so that was kind of the closest thing for me to it. So learning about anatomy and physiology and all those things just made me curious about it even more. So I immediately got my CSCS, which is my strength and conditioning specialist certification, through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And again, that, you're learning all these Olympic lifts and how to create programs for athletes and people that want to, exercise, but there's not much nutrition information involved. So I eventually went back to school to be a dietitian. So anyway, they go hand in hand, but I just adore sports. My kids play sports. I still play volleyball when I can. My husband was a huge basketball player. So yeah, it's kind of in our family. What
is a sports dietitian?
I'm glad you asked that, because I think this is an area of confusion for a lot of people. So every dietitian is a nutritionist. Not every nutritionist is a dietitian, if that makes sense. So dietitians do more rigorous training. They go through not only schooling, but an internship, sort of like a medical doctor would go through a residency. And so we have, specific training, hands-on in all the different areas of dietetics, whereas nutritionists nowadays can go online, get a certification, which I think is awesome. I'm so glad that there's more availability for people to get certified in nutrition, because we're not getting any healthier necessarily. And so we definitely need people spreading the good word. But a sports dietitian is someone that takes that knowledge of dietetics and applies it to the sport and to the athlete.
What is the difference between a nutritionist
and a dietitian?
Yes.
Well, like I just said, technically it's really just the training. It would depend on which certification you got as a nutritionist. But again, as a dietitian, you have to go through, your undergrad, then you have to do a dietetic internship, and then you have to take a credentialing exam. So it's not, I think some nutritionists can just do an online course and take a short exam and then be a nutritionist. But being a dietitian it's a little bit more rigorous.
What is the day-to-day life like as a sports dietitianist, nutritionist?
Well, it is, at least when, I was working with the professional team, I worked a lot with the kitchen staff and the chef and getting the players the appropriate pre-meal before their training. I talk a lot with the players while they're eating. I think it's important to get to know each of them and you kind of start getting to know them according to what they eat or what they're not eating. And then you can be like, hey, where's your vegetables today? Or, and you just like give them a hard time, but also educate them in the process. And then, then they have their training when it was really hot out and, especially like if it's hot out or if we're somewhere where, higher elevation, certain instances we would do more weigh-ins. And so, you do pre and post weigh-ins and you really focus on hydration. Again, I would make smoothies prior to training and then post recovery smoothies to help start the recovery process after training. And then we would provide lunch as well for the players. So it's the same thing. It's working with the kitchen staff. It's talking and mingling with the players and helping them. And then they would usually get whatever massages and different things. And so sometimes it was me in the athletic training room as well, talking with players, maybe an injured player and how they could supplement and try to increase their recovery a lot faster. So meetings with coaches, there were some days that were very much the same and some days that were way different. And on days that they would leave for traveling, I would make snack bags. And I would deliver them to each player and just to try to help control what, they were fueling with on the way to on their trips, because a lot of airport food is, or even, food that you would take yourself in your bag is not always the healthiest. So I tried to help them with that as much as possible.
What was your time like for the sporting in Kansas City?
So I started with Sporting KC as a consultant. The head strength and conditioning coach contacted me and was like, hey, we need help with nutrition. Are you willing to, come in and maybe just, a day or two a week and help the players? And so I started that way and just came in a couple days a week. And I kind of did the same thing when I was full time. I just talked with the players when they were eating. I helped control the menus. I also worked a lot with when the players did travel. I worked with the hotel menus. So I would contact the hotel chef or the food service manager and talk with them. And then I gave a lot of presentations in the beginning to kind of, try to teach everyone. So everyone was on the same page. I did a lot of handouts as well to kind of reiterate the message. And then they realized that they were going to make room in the budget for a full-time nutritionist. So they hired me on full-time. And basically, I was still doing the same thing. I was just there on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes weekends too, because they train on the weekends as well. So, and then I would come to games. And when I could, I would, make the smoothies in the locker rooms for them and stuff. So.
Can you talk about, of course, owning your own sports dietitian nutritionist business?
Mm-hmm. So when I was with Sporting, like I said, I created a lot of presentations and handouts. I am a little bit more of it's called an integrative or functional nutritionist, or more holistic. I believe that food is medicine, and that you kind of are what you eat or what you can digest, so to speak. And a lot of sports nutrition information out there is, I would just say it's antiquated. It's a little old school. Our food has changed a lot over the years. And so our thought process needs to change as well. And so when I was looking for things like resources to help me help the players, I really came up short and I wasn't happy with what I was finding. And so I created my own. And after leaving Sporting, I had all this stuff, all these emails I sent to players and parents. And I had all these presentations and all these handouts, and I'm like, well, I did all this for one team. What if I created an online sports nutrition program that could help lots of players and lots of coaches and lots of teams? And so I decided to virtualize it basically, and sort of take my experience, because I had worked with athletes in the past and helped like volleyball teams and basketball teams and so forth. So I basically took all of my knowledge from working with athletes, as well as all of my dietetics knowledge, and kind of put it into a online program that any coach, any athletic trainer, any athlete, any team could purchase and then implement themselves. So they didn't have to, necessarily hire a sports nutritionist, although nothing can replace hiring a sports nutritionist to like physically be there. But if that's not in your budget, because a lot of these small colleges and stuff, like the one I went to, didn't have that in the budget. So, but having someone that had the knowledge to teach me, gosh, I would have ate that up. So I just want to be that person that can help these teams and athletes that really want to implement a sports nutrition program but have no idea how. I want to be that person that can help them.
What does your program offer?
So if you purchase, I have 2 levels. I have a premier and a basics, like a fundamental. If you were to purchase the premier, you would get, it's in a teachable format. So it's all my videos teaching you how to use the resources. There's a couple different presentations where you would show it to the athletes, and they would learn, about the nutrition basics and some different things, macronutrients and the plate method and hydration and so forth. And then there's handouts that go along with each of the presentations. There's emails. So if you want to, if you're a coach, for instance, and you're implementing this program and you want to send your players an email every week, there's an email for every week that you could send, just to kind of reiterate that nutrition message that they're learning. There's a section on how to develop a sports nutrition philosophy, because every organization, every team, every player, every coach is kind of different and unique in that way. So you have to kind of all be on the same page and know what you're working towards. And I really emphasize practicing what you preach, because if you're a coach that bought this program for your players, but you're bringing in McDonald's for yourself every day, that's not teaching them what you're trying to show them in the program. So I'm a big proponent of practicing what you preach. So that's what you'll get. I also have a blog, so you get more, nutrition information that way. I'm just starting my Instagram site and Facebook, where I'm just going to post content that will hopefully help athletes and coaches with easy stuff that they can do at home or use to travel, or just kind of some simple content for them.
What are some of your future plans with your new business?
Well, hopefully people buy the program and give me feedback, and it helps them. And then also I'm hoping that it leads to through the feedback, hey, we really need a program specific to basketball, or we really need a program just for women. And so I just kind of want to throw it out there and see what it does. And then I might do a youth program too, because I think that there's, some discrepancy between that. But I really this is like the foundation for nutrition for athletes. And then, from there you get more specific. So I might just keep throwing out programs and getting more specific with it, and creating content.
That's wonderful. What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before becoming a sports nutritionist?
And if you want, if it's easier for you, can just say sports dietitian or sports nutritionist. You don't have to say them both. They actually just changed that not that long ago, where you could hyphenate dietitian hyphenated nutritionist, whereas used to we were just registered dietitians. So now we get to say we're RDNs, registered dietitian nutritionist, but it's a mouthful. So what did I learn? Well, I mean, besides some of the basic stuff, like I learned a lot about supplements that, specific for athletes, what brands that they should use, and, maybe what brands to stay away from, because athletes are their own entity with that. So many of them get tested, and so you have to be really careful what you recommend. Protein powders and all that kind of stuff. Like you learn what's best for athletes and how that's a little different from, the common client that you would have. But truthfully, I mean, that's not super exciting. I would say that I love working with athletes, like, and that kind of reminded me of that passion, because athletes are motivated, their mindsets are, a little different. Most athletes want to perform at their best. Most coaches want to help their teams win. So there's just an aura about them that they're so easy to work with, because they want to do better. So they're open to like listening to you. Whereas, because I used to have a wellness business as well, and working with wellness clients, it's just a little more challenging getting them in that mindset and getting them motivated. So that was a big thing. And then athletes in general they're unique, because they not only are very routine based, they also have their superstitions. And so working with them is like, it's a little different than working with the common client. So it's kind of fun.
What advice would you give future people looking to get into the industry?
So I helped a couple dietetic interns while I was with sporting. A lot of people wanting to get into sports nutrition want to shadow you because you're a professional, team's dietitian, but it's also a very private setting. You can't just have anybody and everybody in to shadow you, right? Because I'm doing body fat on players and talking to them in the training room. And those are not places that you can really have, just anybody. So what I always told them was volunteer. It's a hard profession to like get into necessarily, but if you volunteer and you start putting yourself out there, you volunteer for a team and you create a handout or you create a presentation for that team, that team is going to tell somebody else. And, so you just have to really start getting yourself in that world as much as possible. And whether that's unpaid or paid, or, it's for a youth little league or, whatever it might be, you just have to start somewhere and then work your way into it.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with your program at?
Amy Dirks SN is my Instagram and Facebook. So Amy Dirks Sports Nutrition, basically. On online, it's amydirksportsnutrition.com. So again, a mouthful, but adsn.com also works, I believe. So yep, you can get to my website there and my blog, and you can shoot me an email if you have a question, and it'll go directly to me. So.
Thank you again, Amy, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. I appreciate it.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Amy, for your interview, and best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.